We know right now in the hobby that there is some shady things at play when it comes to single cards on the market. We've seen big booms happen of some very somewhat interesting cards, and today we'll be looking at whether or not it's natural or is it manipulated. That is the main thing today. And the interesting thing is we've seen some really big cards which, to be honest, are pretty cool, reach really high values, especially on TCG Player. But was it manipulated? Is it legit? We're going to be covering all of that today. So let's get into it. Okay, the first card we're looking at today is the Legendary Birds promo. This is from the Hidden Fates ETB. I absolutely love this card. It's one of my favorite promos I think they've ever done, to be honest. I've graded and collected so many of these over the past few years, and this one has been going a little bit wild, and I'll tell you a little bit of a story regarding this myself, but things have been going pretty crazy. So let's take a look at this. We are looking at, it says here $73, but let's take a look at what has been selling. So we look here, we're looking at around about anywhere between $110 to $120. So a bit higher than that $74. So we're looking at roughly around, $120 or so dollars for this card. And the thing is this thing's jumped up just like absolute crazy, right? We go back a year, and we can see this card's gone up by 363%, but that only measures it up at the $75 mark, and actually we know it's more than that, so it would be even higher, but that is very, very impressive. I remember these were like 10, right? I remember picking these up at like £10. They were relatively cheap, and I was grading them, and even in PSA 10s, they were going for like 50 a piece. We'll look at the graded price in a moment, but yeah, this thing has been going like crazy. I actually had some recently that I sent off and got graded with PSA. Quite a lot of them got 10s, so I actually sold one, I think it was like for $130 about a month ago, and then I sold one for $200 maybe 3 weeks ago, something like that, and yeah, now it's pretty wild. When we look at Pokéjace, we can see what has been going on with this birdie. So yeah, we're looking at the average market price here, over at $110, between $110 and $120. Look at this PSA 10 price, $400. This thing has just blown up. There's 24,000 of them, by the way. There's a lot. So we look here, right? PSA. I sold mine probably around, I think the first one I sold was around March. I'm going to say, no, probably around April. Which is around £130, which is about roughly $160 to $170, right? Probably actually a little bit more. So that's about right. And then I sold another one in, I believe it would have been the beginning of June, maybe the end of May. So yeah, actually it was about the beginning of June. I sold it for £200. So probably look around about $230, $240. And now look here, it has just gone absolutely, I mean, at one point it was $450. It's trickled back down a little bit, but yeah, I still have some in my collection that I do have in a PSA 10. Debating whether or not to sell them or hold on for it for a while, just because it could get to $500 a piece, which would be absolutely incredible. But let's take a look at the raw price. So I wouldn't say this was manipulation, right? And the reason why, okay, is because, right, we've looked at a lot of cards, right? And I'll tell you what, we've looked at a lot of cards on Pokéjace over the past year now, right? Or a bit longer than a year. And one trend we see a lot, right? One trend we do see a lot is that the market price, which is the blue, is usually much lower than the TCG Player price. When TCG Player starts going off on its own little tangent, we know there's foul play to be had. Whereas the market is just across multiple places. So it's like that's the average value, whereas TCG Player is like, no, I'm going off my own. We can see that wasn't really the case. We go back 6 months, it was around $40, and it crept up ever so slowly. And in June, we started to see a little bit of gains, like the start of June and May. It was, pushing around $60. It was like, oh, wait a minute, we've seen some good bits here. And then by the end of June, so where are we here? So by the end of June, we're looking at $120 raw, and it ticked up a little bit to be around $130. It dropped a little bit since then. This card is absolutely bonkers. It is just insanely cool. I like it. This one I would say is natural. Hidden Fates, at certain points, it did feel like it plateaued where like ETBs was sat at like 160 to 180, but now that hasn't been the case. So yeah, Hidden Fates climbing, the whole buzz around Tag Team and Sun and Moon has come back again. And yeah, that's why we've seen this skyrocket really in the past 2 months really. Now, where does it go from here, right? Where does it go? I think in a PSA 10, we're looking at over $500. I think it will break over $500. I don't know how long that would be, but I think it will. And I think raw, we could be looking at this promo being, I think it could reach $200. I know it sounds wild, but I do actually think it could be double of what it is now in the future. But I think it's a matter of time. It all depends. But I think everybody loves this. And from Hidden Fates, Sun and Moon tag team. Okay, next one we're going to talk about is the Greninja. This is the Gold Star promo from Celebrations ETB, the regular ETB. And here's the thing, like, this was a really cheap card for a while. And to be honest, it is seen some real big gains. Look at this. Look at this. So we have here $13. At one point, it did actually reach as high as 18. And I want to go back in the year and we can see this madness. Look at this. So this was a $1 to $2 card for the longest time at the back end of last year. Then at the start of this year, we started to see the boom, okay, which is around that Prismatic Evolutions release where the market started to tick up a lot. So it went up to $8 and I was like, oh, okay, and then it trickled back down to like a $5 card, $6 card is what it is. And again, here we go. We go back to the past month and boom, here we go. So basically at the end of June, it then spiked all the way up to $18. And that is pretty wild. I mean, the recently sold one was $18. So we're looking at above $15 for this card. Look, don't get me wrong, it's a sweet promo. And I've mentioned about Celebrations before that with the upcoming 30th anniversary, whatever that may bring, you could be seeing a lot of celebration stuff start to tick upwards. I'm surprised it's been this promo, and I'm surprised how much it's jumped up by. But this is definitely an interesting indication of potential market manipulation. People buying out the Greninja. I mean, look at the sales. Just look, right? So we're looking at pretty much most days, less than 10. And stuff like that, and then boom, look at that. And that was where we saw that huge spike the day before, or the couple of days before leading up to the big spike, and we saw it happen. So right now, I think this one, I'm going to put it down to manipulation, but we'll just double check. Okay, so on PokeJace.io, so we're looking here, eBay, $22, TCG Player 17 market, card market 18. Look at this in a PSA 10. This is shocking. Look at that. $430 is wild. There's actually not that many actually in a 10. That's interesting. I'm trying to think whether or not I ever graded one with PSA, because I had loads of these. I mean, absolute tons. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I did. So $100, and then it went all up to $320, and then it went down a little bit, and then boom, it is quadrupled in value in the last 6 months this year. All right, let's look at the raw price. So here we go, guys. So you can see the market price here in the blue, right? Pretty consistent over the past few months. Even TCG Player is pretty consistent, and TCG Player was below market, the average market price. The TCG Player wasn't too bad, actually. This is what happened, and this is where the manipulation comes in. We're looking at 26th of June, okay? Pretty much neck and neck, identical, $11 a piece. And then, boom, it went all the way up to $33 on TCG Player. It just went to the absolute moon, which is where we saw that massive amounts of buyouts. And then because of that, it shifted the market price to try and match it. Obviously, it didn't, and then it comes crashing down from the highs of $33 all the way now down to $17. So it dropped by 50% from that. But the market price was playing catch up because of all the buzz that was going around it, what happened on TCG Player. So basically, a group of people or an individual will go along and they'll buy out all these cards. All of a sudden, everyone's reporting on it. Look at this, there's none available. Look how many people buying this, that, and the other. They will drive up the hype. Oh my God, it's sold out. Everyone's after this card. Bang, price goes right up. Everyone's like, I need this card. I don't know why people have that mentality when like, we saw it with the Drowsy where they didn't want it when it was cheap, but as soon as it becomes expensive, they have to have it now, which is just so silly. They go in and they're like, oh my God, I have to have it. So the average market price then drives up with that demand. And then what ends up happening is the people that just bought out all those cards at $5 a piece, sell it all at $30 a piece. And they go, oh yeah, I was happy. Well, that was easy. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, this one's a little bit weird, but the PSA price is very interesting only because I just didn't know that there was that little amount of 10s. I genuinely thought there was a lot more. There was a lot of this card around, so that has surprised me. So I can kind of understand where that's coming from. But as regarding to the raw price, this one's definitely down to market manipulation. Right, we've got another Sword and Shield promo. We've got the special delivery Charizard. This one was a Pokemon Center exclusive from the UK when the Pokemon Center opened. I actually had two of these. I graded both, and I think both were PSA 9s, I think. Now, at the time when this had dropped, I can't remember when it dropped, maybe 2021, 2022. When this dropped, it was about a 40-ish pound card, right? It wasn't that massively expensive. Even a PSA 9, it was like £50, right? It wasn't really that much of a big deal. Now, however, is very different. So, of course, you look here and you're like, oh, it's only $59. But if we look at the most recent sold, that's not the case. Anywhere between $100 and $120 are the most recently sold special delivery Charizard. So I expect the chart and everything to update even more. And even if you just look at the chart, right, a year ago, it was about $34 and it was up 72%. That's reaching 60. Well, we know it's nearly double that now. We're looking at insane markups for this Charizard. And the thing is, you had like the special delivery Bidoof, which has gained an insane amount of value over time. And I kind of feel like it was just a matter of time before this was going to go up anyway, if you know what I mean. But I don't have this anymore. I got rid of them ages ago. Personally, not a fan of the card. But yeah, it's still very, very impressive. Over $100. Is this real? Is this legit? So let's take a look at the special delivery Charizard. Holy smokes. So we're looking at 94 on eBay, 90 on TCG Player, 134 on Card Market. Over $1,000 in a PSA 10. Again, not as many PSA 10s as I had thought. I mean, I had two that came back 9s, and even then, they're now $112. I mean, I probably sold mine at the equivalent of maybe $70 back in the day. So they have appreciated a little bit of value in that 9, but is that 10? Is that sweet, sweet 10? I think when I graded it at the time, if you did get a 10, it was like 200 maybe, like 150 to 200. It wasn't like what it is now. And yeah, very, very impressive. Obviously, it's a very difficult card to get hold of now. Let's take a look at the market price. So this one, I would say, is natural. And the reason because, I mean, look, the TCG Player was a little bit above. If you go back to the start of the year, only a little bit, about like $10 difference. Then the market leveled out with TCG Player. And then the average market price continued going, and TCG Player was lagging behind the average market price. And now it's basically neck and neck. So we haven't seen these unusual big spikes or anything like that over the last 6 months. It is just a really nice natural progression of the special delivery Charizard. And just like the special delivery Bidoof, I think this one is going to be incredible moving forward. It just will. I mean, this could be, like a $2,000 card down the line, in a PSA 10. To keep that one in mind, I think this one could follow the Bidoof. Keep that in mind. I think this one could be, the next special delivery Bidoof, but this time Charizard. Okay, we're going back to celebrations. This time we're not looking at a promo, we're looking at the Umbreon Gold Star coming in. Now, this one has been seeing a big spike in price recently. Now, I have been talking a lot about celebrations over the past few months, and, I'm like, look, keep an eye on it. It hasn't really been doing much, hasn't really been moving much, whether it be sealed, all the value of the cards for quite some time. They just haven't. And I was like, look, if we're getting towards that 30th anniversary, we saw the growth of generations happen when we were approaching celebrations, okay? So it's like, okay, well, if that is the case, whatever they decide to do with the 30th, we're going to see celebrations start ticking up as we get closer and closer to the 30th anniversary. So I'd expect when we go into 2026 next year, we'll see a big spike in probably the value of a lot of cards and sealed product from celebrations. Keep that one in mind if you are sat on any. Me personally, I have like 2 products, I think, from celebrations. I didn't really go hard on celebrations. I think the only thing I've got is, I think I've got 2 Pokémon Sun ETBs, and that was it. So I don't really have much for celebrations at all. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my cup of tea. Like, I wasn't going to be like, oh yeah, let's go all in on celebrations or any of that stuff. So we're looking at the raw price. It's gone up by 214%, right? Hang on. So we look at the most recently sold. We're looking around about $70. So it's actually higher than this $43. So the percentage would be even higher. But look at this buyout. Look at this. So we can see here, you're like, oh, okay, right? Even if we go at the last month, each day, no buys, nothing. 1 sold, okay, cool, at $30. Oh, we got another 2 sold there. Basically nothing, right? Next to nothing. Then all of a sudden, right? 26 in a single day. Just buy out the whole shebang. And look what happened there. I mean, this is a proof. Look at that. That is proof that there's some dodgy stuff going on right there with the Umbreon. So let's take a look at the Umbreon. We can see here eBay 67, TCG Player 70. PSA 10 is $356, which is actually pretty good. Bearing in mind a decent amount of them in a 10. That is still actually pretty good. And you can see here from the PSA price, I mean, 6 months ago, it was $80 in a PSA 10. Then it jumped up at start of the year around that prismatic boom. We're looking at $200, and then it trickled down and it was settling. You're like, oh, okay, interesting, down to like 150, and then bang, over doubled in value, literally in the past few weeks, which is wild. Now we look at the raw price. Interesting things here, right? If you look at the raw market price between eBay and TCG Player, it was pretty much neck and neck the whole way. And then we can see the big spike from TCG Player happen, right? And the thing is the market started to move away ever so slightly, maybe about a couple of dollars. Not really much there, much difference at all. But then we saw the big buyout, bang, and it shot right up, more than doubled in value. And the market was playing catch up to, again, that TCG Player spike, and it still hasn't caught up yet. Again, just like we saw with the Greninja, someone goes in, they buy the whole lot. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the same people, to be honest. It means it's like celebrations. But yeah, that is something to be careful of, that you don't get stung. But I do feel like naturally, the Umbreon and other classic collection cards in celebrations will start to shift up anyway. But I think this instance, yeah, that one's manipulation. Then we have the Drowsy. This one's an interesting one. So a few months ago, we saw the big boom. Everyone was talking about it. So many people doing videos based on it, going, guys, some people call it like the next Magikarp. They were just absolutely losing it. Now, this happened actually around a time where I went to a recent card show, and everyone was scrambling to try and get hold of this card. They're like, oh, going around the vendors, do you have a Drowsy? Do you have a Drowsy from Scarlet Violet base? They didn't care about this card a year before, or even a month before. It wasn't even on their radar. And I give you guys an example of this is what happens if you buy into the hype. If you go in on these massively, like hugely manipulated cards, and this is what happens. So if we look at this Drowsy, it's $23. Over the past 3 months, it's dropped 31%. We go back over the last 6 months. This is what happens. You go along and you go, oh yeah, some people buying it, around $20 odd. And then a big buyout happened. Bang, goes all the way up to $65. And now we look here, it is less than where it once was 6 months ago. We go back a year, and this is a picture that you got to be careful of. So yes, there was decent sales all the time, just consistently trickling up, normal. And then a huge buyout happened. So if you bought this card for $65, or people back then were paying, when I was at the card show, like 60, 70 pounds for this, you're feeling kind of bad because this card has dropped tremendously. Like now you can pick this up for under 20 pounds. And yeah, it feels kind of bad, right? So this is a prime example of you've got to be careful when buying hyped, manipulated cards. It's just one of these things. It's no longer the most expensive card in the set. I think it's like the third or fourth now. Other cards have now overtaken it. Personally, I've never been a fan of the card. I don't even own the card. I don't even care for the card. And just seeing people that were hunting for it at such a highly inflated price and a hyped price, they didn't even care that it was like £5 a month prior or 2 months prior to that happening. They just didn't care. So it was kind of a weird one. When we look at the Drowsy, we can see the average market price here, 31, 25, and 28. Not bad. It's a 10 though, still fetching $350, which is still a hefty amount. And again, there's not a huge amount in a 10. But even the graded price, look at the full, guys. I mean, 6 months ago, it was around $300 to $400. Then it went up to over $760. That's mind-blowing. That's very impressive. And imagine you buy it in a PSA 10 at $760, and now this sucker's worth less than half than that. You would feel so bad. It would be terrible. I think it might not even get to that level in a PSA 10 in the future. I just don't. I find it very hard to believe. But look at the manipulation here, right? Pretty much neck and neck at the start of the year. And then look at this huge buyout we saw on TCG Player, right? Went all the way up to $87. And then it went wee, and then it went down. And the market played catch up. Took a couple of days, right? 2 weeks even, for the market to catch up. And the market did eventually catch up close to it. But by then, the price already had tanked on TCG Player because all the people that pumped and dumped it, it actually pumped up to the moon and they dumped the whole lot. And everyone that was caught in that blitz basically got caught. And now look at it. It's just absolutely brutal. In fact, it's less than where it was 6 months ago. Do not get caught in the hype, guys. Be careful. When you see huge price spikes of cards, don't feel like, oh, that's it, I've missed the boat. More than not likely, that is not the case. Sealed product is a little bit different because it's a lot harder to like buy out a lot of individual stuff regarding, you know, a sealed product. But with cards, it's a lot more easier. So there you have it, guys. Market manipulation, or is it natural? Bit of both, right? We've had a little bit of both. Some are definitely more natural, and you can see that. And there's others, you can see that huge buyout. TCG player goes flying up, and then the market's trying to play catch up. And we've seen it across the board, not just the cards we looked at today, but we see it time and time again. We saw it during the big art boom of Sun and Moon. We saw it during the big art boom of Sword and Shield. We saw it with the big illustration rare boom of Scarlet and Violet. Do not get caught in that hype, guys. It makes you lose so much money. It is mental. And the thing is I don't understand why people are so obsessed with buying stuff when it's gone absolutely astronomically high in price. They didn't care about the card when it was cheap, but they want it now. Prime example, which we did look at today, was the 151 Zard, right? The SIR. When that was like £80, no one cared. Goes up to 200, everybody wants it. Don't fall for it, guys. Look at it now. I mean, we didn't look at it today, but it's like 120, 130. I mean, yes, it's more than that 80, but nobody wanted it at 80. But everybody wanted it at 200. And now not as many people want it at 120. Work that one out. If you made fun of the video and you've enjoyed it, make sure to smash the like button, make sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content. And guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments regarding these market manipulations. Do you think it's happening more and more now? Do you think people are being more aware of it? Oh, hopefully they have, but it's dangerous times. But I do feel like there's a lot of natural growth out there as well. You just got to look at the data. It will tell you everything you need to know. That is it for me, guys, in today's video. For more Pokemon content, make sure to click the video on the screen. And of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You guys are legends, and I'll see you next one.